Hey there, everybody. Always good to be back here with you on the channel. Like going into the next thing and the next thing because the topics never slow down. Gosh, the timeline that we're on right now with so many things coming at us, in rapid fire. But I do want to take a look at, of course, this supposed ceasefire agreement that's on the table for with Iran. Um, but I'm already seeing, according to who was it that's breaking that news right now? I think it was Reuters, or it may be the Independent. I think it may have been the Independent out of the UK that's saying that already Iran has refused this supposed proposal for a ceasefire because, among many other things, like where is Israel in this equation? We understand that whatever talks that are happening that Pakistan is spearheading, that it's around, it involves J.D. Vance. Spirit said a while ago that Vance was going to get involved in that. J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff. Perhaps Steve Witkoff is being considered Israel's emissary. Like, why not at this point? But still, importantly, the guidance that I'm getting, and perhaps many of you as well, is like, how on earth is there going to be a ceasefire agreement where Israel is not at the table and does not commit to whatever terms there are? So this almost feels like a non-starter, and I'm not sure, but that's why I'm going to go to Spirit on that and see if, in fact, especially in the wake of that absolutely deplorable, Easter post that Trump made, cursing and just it'll never be a time that most of us would consider Marjorie Taylor Greene our friend. She will never, ever, ever, ever be invited to the cookout, to the family cookout, right? But even she came out and said, this is insanity, point blank insanity. So, Spirit, are we going to see a ceasefire this week? Because we know what he said in the post, which is, by tomorrow night, Tuesday night, I'm taping this Monday morning. It all goes, he's going in unbelievably, right? Blow everything up. All right, let's see what we have. We have the Two of Pentacles. That, I'm actually glad to see that. That does look like confirmation from Spirit that there is an attempt, at least, to slow things down. And I think this is more Pakistan. This is Pakistani leadership trying to do everything possible to get a grip on this before it escalates to the next level. War crimes are blatant at this point. If you're going after, infrastructure and civilians, we get it. Spirit, will there be a ceasefire this week? Will they reach an agreement for a ceasefire in Iran? The Four of Cups, not, again, it's what we're hearing, especially on the Iranian end of it, is there's no starter here. You're not giving us any confirmation that, so what happens after this 45-day window? How do we know that we can count on something long term? Spirit, let's go for the other side of that coin now. Spirit, will this will this administration follow through on the threats to escalate in Iran? Will we see a dramatic escalation in Iran this week? The Ace of Swords. I knew it. I felt it. And it's almost, Spirit is saying, I'm going to confirm. The first thing we always hear on the heels of these sorts of announcements is what happens in the markets. And if there's some, basically for entertainment purposes only, basically a lot of what is said by this administration is done because in anticipation of how the markets will respond, to try and bolster the markets, at least temporarily. Spirit, is that what this was? Was this a ploy? Two of Swords, King of Cups, and the Seven of Pentacles. This was tied to the markets, and I'm also getting that this Two of Swords, this conflicting messaging is around, what's his name? Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, who there's starting to be, a number of, pretty reputable reports coming out that he may be right up there in the line of who's on the chopping block. Commerce Secretary. Not only we know recently he had the issues that came out with him around lying to Congress around his connection to and visits with Epstein, the island, but in addition to that, $4 plus gas, $6. We're being told to expect, any day now, going up to around $6, and that's not counting other places like California and others where it's already skyrocketed way past that. That's what we're seeing here. Is this King of Cups? I really feel like that's Lutnick, who is saying, doing what he can to try and get in Trump's ear to try and essentially preserve his job. So a lot of what we're hearing around this, it's a shell game. It's something to manipulate the markets versus something that is that's doable and real. Again, you don't even have Israel at the table. So, Spirit, with that escalation, they're telling me to reshuffle, because with that escalation, a couple of things are happening. I'm getting Hexath is doing everything he can to prove his worth. With that, with what happened last week with Randy George, does not look good at all. But what we're hearing and what a lot of good sources like The Independent, which I've turned to a lot lately, like Reuters, which absolutely, like the New Republic, which is also stellar. So there's some good outlets that are looking into the fact that Hexath is trying to scramble because he's afraid of being replaced by Dan Driscoll. Dan Driscoll is apparently, he's the Army secretary, was really tight with, or is really tight with, Randy George. And so Hexath did what he did with Randy George, got him out of the way. But the whole deal was that Randy George and Dan Driscoll were some of the people who were saying, listen, this has gone too far. And what you are doing, this escalation, is ultimately going to harm our troops. We understand, I tape in the mornings. We understand that Trump is going to get on do a press conference later today to talk about the rescue of the other troop, when that jet was downed, and they got, and they're calling it this Easter miracle. This is being done to save face, essentially. We also understand that Susie Wiles has been on the alert and really starting to lean in and warn Trump about Hexath and what he's doing. From what we're hearing, has gone to the cabinet and saying, you all are not being honest with him. She's setting the tone already for him to be able to excuse some of what he has done and approved by saying he was not given reliable information. Who would that fall on except Hexath? Spirit, is Hexath scrambling because he thinks he's going to get replaced by Dan Driscoll? The Five of Swords, scrambling. The Ace of Cups, I'm not going to ignore it, because when I get aces, and I'm not going to ignore Major Arcana, the Hermit. Yes, that's what's happening. A lot of this behind the scenes. Hexath is scrambling because he knows that depending on the outcome of how this goes, and if this escalation happens, which according to Spirit, most likely it will, the escalation that Trump promised, the point blank period, war crimes, international courts getting involved, other countries around the globe getting involved. It is so blatant at that point that the ramifications down the road, regardless of what happens with Trump, how long he lasts, we know what we mean by that. Hexath will be around. He will be around to face those consequences. So that Hermit is him recognizing he feels very isolated. That also ties into, Spirit is reminding me, that ties into why he approved the carrying of firearms on the bases. He's on military bases here in the States, because he's afraid. He feels like he's being isolated, and he is extremely afraid of losing, having fought so hard, losing the support of Trump. And Susie, again, Spirit, is Susie Wiles warning Trump about Hexath? Is she telling him he's leading you down a dark path? The Fool, I think we got an answer. Exactly. Susie is in Tr0mp's ear, and he trusts her implicitly. She's in his ear, and that is why she too has come out and said, you're not giving him, the quote that I saw was, you're giving him information like rose-colored glasses. So she's trying to inoculate him to an extent. To say, as this continues to blow back and blow up, that both domestically and internationally, that he didn't know. Essentially, he didn't know. He was given bad information, and that information came from Hexath. Spirit, will Hexath be ousted and replaced by Driscoll? Will Hexath be ousted? The Five of Pentacles. Well, he's already being ousted. Again, that's another, along with the Hermit, which can sometimes be a really isolated figure. He's already being ousted. He's already feeling the squeeze. He's already not, members of the cabinet are starting to distance themselves from him. Certainly military leadership, reliable military leadership is distancing themselves. And here we have the Emperor, none other than Tr0mp's, beginning to distance himself. Or will in the very short future. Ace of Swords, confirmation. Will in the very short future. Because again, you know, and it's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching to think what we may see this week if, in fact, this escalation occurs, as Tr0mp's promised. But again, the back end of that, this is going to fall on Hexath's shoulders in large part. And you're going to have Susie and Tr0mp's already in line to say, they didn't level with us. Hexath and others did not level with us. And then you're going to see Spirit, will Driscoll step in? Will Driscoll step in? The World, I think so. Or, this feels like more than just Driscoll. You know, something that Spirit said to me last week when this happened with Randy George was that part of what's the downfall of Hexath, which is coming, reckoning is coming, that Randy George will be instrumental in that, because he's going to be called to testify about what really happened between him and Hexath when he was basically forced to retire. And there's the Two of Coins. This is, this world is coming. This is Driscoll and someone else. It could be a deputy or someone that comes with Driscoll. But what I'm getting from that, you all, is in order for Driscoll to accept any sort of, to come in and replace Hexath. And I'm feeling around, not tomorrow, by summer, Spirit, May, June, the Chariot. Yeah, by summer. Chariot, and I say that because the Chariot is ruled by Cancer, right? Summer. By summer, Hexath is done. And the Four of Pentacles. He's going to try and hang on in the interim, because the Four of Pentacles is sort of a locked energy, you know, holding on. I even noticed that cigar. That's an awesome image, that cigar with the coins. Like, that's him trying to hold on, continue to bluster, continue to do his bro code, hyper toxic masculine, this is what we do. Also trying to, Spirit said, essentially trying to do what amounts to, what I'm hearing from the guys is like a cult. This cult of religion, you know, forcing troops to, you know, you're doing this for God. You know, you're doing this for God. Not to mention that tape that we saw, the video that they tried to take down, or maybe did take down, where, what was the Easter brunch, where somebody was comparing essentially Tr0mp's to Jesus, right? Okay. I know many of you are going to ask. I'm going to look quickly at it. Like, what happened to him this weekend? Did he, you know, for a minute on Saturday, social media lit up with like, woo, get the champagne, you know, get ready to pop those corks, because we saw images of this motorcade to Walter Reed. He did not go to Mar-a-Lago this weekend. And then we see some weird video of him being just kind of driven around town yesterday and looking at monuments or whatever. Like, yeah, Spirit, what really happened with Trump? Did he suffer a medical emergency this weekend? Did Trump suffer a medical emergency this weekend? And then there was the ruse of potentially a ruse of them posting the guards outside the Oval to indicate, oh no, he's busy working all weekend. Spirit, what is the truth around what happened to Trump around his health this weekend? Did he have a health episode? The Magician trying to cover it up with, I'm not going to ignore it, the 10 of Swords, and the High Priestess not going to ignore it. Hidden, something happened with him. 10 of Swords. Now, it could have even been that he had, in a 10 of Swords energy, it could have been that he had a panic attack, essentially, problems breathing, blood pressure elevated beyond, perhaps something that elevated levels that there was concern of stroke or a mini stroke. But the Magician that was the magic act, essentially, that the White House tried to put forward afterwards to say, no, nothing to see here. It's going to be really interesting. Again, I'm taping this in the morning. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow when I get on, because it'll be interesting. Look really closely at his appearance, his speech patterns, and other things for him to do this press conference today. And I have a feeling they're going to make sure they keep it extremely short, which also is another tell, because we know he loves to get up there and, and just pontificate. All right, you all. I think that is it for today. I will see you all tomorrow. Again, I'm trying to do these a little shorter because I'm posting now every day. All right. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some insight around the weekend, and also around this supposed ceasefire thing, and definitely keeping your eyes on how things play out with Hexath increasingly under the spotlight. Also keep your eyes on whatever's going to go on with Howard Lutnick, because this manipulation that they're doing around trying to deal with the markets up and down, and making these announcements that clear a ceasefire, really, and you don't even have all the parties at the table. We know that according to international sources, Israel is gone ballistic as usual with their maintaining and escalating attacks. So, like, how is that even making any sense, right? At the end of the day. All right, you all, I appreciate you fully. Thank you for the hypes. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the comments. I understand comments have to be at least 7 words in order for the algorithm to track them. So thank you for your time and attention and energy as I try to grow the channel and continue to show up and give you what I hope is helpful and good content. All right. Chin up. Y'all know. Chin up. Shoulders back. Continue to breathe. Continue to breathe. And April's going to be like, it's going to be some work, but we can make sure it happens, because the sky is always above us. And the earth is beneath us, sustaining us always. All right. I'll talk to you real soon tomorrow. Bye.